I should have left my phone on silent. That tiny buzz on the desk shouldn't have mattered, just another notification among 100. But it was different this time. It was David's name flashing, followed by 3 words that split the air like glass shattering. Check the group. I opened WhatsApp, thumb trembling, and my entire world fractured in green bubbles and laughing emojis. Evan, bro, imagine trying for 3 years and still shooting blanks. Mark, skull that's why his wife looks so bored, man. Claire, don't be cruel. Evan, cruel. Please. Word is she's pregnant now. Guess someone else knows how to finish the job. My chest went cold. Then it gets colder. I scrolled up, heart pounding, eyes stinging as line after line blurred into static. Jokes. Insults. Pity disguised as humor. And all of them aimed at me. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was her name at the top of the chat. Lena. My wife. My partner of 7 years. She wasn't saying anything. Just those little gray ticks showing she'd seen it all. No defense. No outrage. Not even a stop. Just silence. Her silence screamed louder than every insult on that screen. I scrolled further, desperate for a mistake, a misinterpretation. That's when I found it. Sophie, wait. Lena, are you really pregnant? Congrats. Lena, 2 hearts yeah. 6 weeks. The room spun. My breath snagged in my throat like barbed wire. Pregnant. 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 The word repeated in neon across my brain, mocking me. We had tried. God, we had tried for years. Doctor's visits, quiet nights filled with tears, hopeful mornings that always ended in disappointment. And then the final verdict, azoospermia. My body couldn't give her what she wanted most. I remembered her hand squeezing mine in that sterile office, her voice whispering, "It doesn't matter. You matter." I believed her. I built my world around her. And now, she was carrying someone else's child. I don't remember standing. Don't remember knocking the chair back so hard it crashed into the wall. All I remember is the silence in the office, eyes burning into me as I stormed out. Someone called my name, but it was muffled, underwater. The elevator ride was a coffin of mirrors. My reflection stared back at me, pale, trembling, lips pressed white. My tie hung loose like a noose. I wanted to rip it off, rip my skin off, anything to stop feeling. By the time I reached our apartment, my pulse was hammering so loud it drowned out reason. I didn't knock. I didn't breathe. I shoved the door open so hard it hit the wall with a crack. Lena was in the kitchen, phone in hand, a glass of water half raised. She looked up, startled. "You're home early. Don't." My voice cracked. "Don't you dare." Her eyes flickered, guilt flashing too fast for her to hide. I slammed my phone down on the counter, the chat glowing bright between us. "You let them laugh at me. At us. And then this?" I jabbed a finger at the line that burned me alive, 6 weeks. She paled, setting the glass down with a clink. "It's not what you think. Not what I think." I laughed, sharp and bitter. "Then tell me, Lena, who's the father?" The silence stretched. Heavy. Suffocating. She pressed her lips together, eyes glassy, throat working like she wanted to speak but couldn't. I took a step closer, rage shaking through me. "Say something. Tell me it's mine. Lie to me if you have to. Just, say it." Her hands trembled at her sides. She opened her mouth, closed it, tears sliding down her cheeks. And then, nothing. No denial. No reassurance. No fight. Just silence. And the worst part? When I asked her who the father was, she didn't even deny it. The apartment felt haunted. Every corner carried her fingerprints, her perfume clinging to the air, the faint trace of her laugh echoing against walls now stripped bare of warmth. I sat on the edge of the couch, head in my hands, staring at nothing and everything at once. The chat still burned in my mind, every line etched into me like scars carved with salt. I wanted to scream. To smash every glass, tear every picture off the wall. But instead, I sat there, paralyzed by silence. And in that silence, the memories started to replay. Lena comes home late with flimsy excuses. We were working late, you know how deadlines are. Her phone lights up at midnight, a quick swipe to hide the screen. It's just Sophie. Don't overthink it. The way she flinched when I touched her shoulder last month, offering a kiss, only to pull away with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm just tired, love." I swallowed hard, my chest tight. Back then, I believed her. I believed because love is built on trust, and I thought ours was unshakable. But looking back, it wasn't trust. It was blindness. A sharp ache bloomed in my chest as I reached for the drawer under the coffee table. My hands hesitated, trembling, before pulling it open. Inside lay the journal. The one I hadn't touched in months. Its leather cover was worn, the edges frayed from years of use. I opened it to the first page, a list of names written in my messy teenage handwriting. Elias, Jonah, Sarah. My someday list. I used to sit under the stars with my father, pointing at constellations, and he'd tell me, "Name your stars, son. Give them meaning." He died before I turned 16. And that night, I wrote those names down, promising myself I'd give them life. Fatherhood wasn't just about children. It was about carrying him forward, keeping him alive in some way. But that dream shattered the day the doctor looked me in the eye and told me the truth about my body. Infertile. A word heavier than grief. And Lena had promised me then, her hand in mine, her voice steady, "It doesn't change anything. You're still my everything." Now, 6 weeks pregnant, with someone else's child. I slammed the journal shut, breath ragged, and shoved it back into the drawer as if hiding it could erase the pain. The next morning, the office felt different. Every face seemed to hold a smirk I couldn't unsee. Conversations hushed when I walked by. My ears burned with phantom laughter. And then there was Derek. Tall, sharp-dressed, his smile just a little too charming. He was always hovering near Lena's desk, leaning in close, their laughter low and intimate. I had brushed it off before, telling myself it was harmless, colleagues, nothing more. But now, with betrayal carved into my skin, every glance between them felt like a knife. I watched from across the room as he touched her shoulder lightly, a gesture casual to anyone else, but now it screamed ownership. My stomach twisted, rage and nausea tangled together. "Everything okay?" David's voice pulled me back. He was watching me carefully, brows furrowed. "Yeah," I lied, forcing a shrug. "Just tired." But my hands clenched so tightly the skin stretched white across my knuckles. The day dragged, every tick of the clock drilling into me. When I finally left the office, I walked past Derek in the parking lot. He gave me a smile, thin, knowing. I wanted to hit it off his face. That night, I couldn't sleep. The ceiling above me was a blank screen where my nightmares played on repeat. Lena's silence. Her swollen belly in whispers. Derek's hand on her shoulder. At 1:42 a.m., my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I reached for it, groggy, expecting David or maybe an automated alert. But it wasn't. It was Derek. One line. One message that made my blood run cold. "We should talk, man to man." I almost didn't go. The email had been sitting in my inbox all week, annual client dinner, attendance required. The thought of walking into that glittering room, pretending everything was normal, made my stomach knot. But absence would be worse. It would be surrender. And if there was one thing I couldn't do, not now, not with Derek circling like a vulture, it was to show weakness. I stood in front of the mirror, tie half done, staring at the hollow-eyed man staring back at me. I didn't recognize him. Jaw tight, lips pressed thin, dark rings etched under his eyes like bruises. My hand drifted down, almost unconsciously, to the drawer. I pulled it open, the journal lying inside like a relic. I traced my fingers over the worn leather cover. Elias. Jonah. Sarah. Names of stars that would never shine. The weight of it pressed against me like stone, but it also anchored me. If nothing else, it reminded me why I couldn't let Derek rewrite my story into mockery. I slipped the journal back, closed the drawer, and tightened my tie. The venue was already buzzing when I arrived. Crystal chandeliers spilled golden light across polished floors, glasses clinked, laughter rippled like rehearsed lines. Everyone in sleek suits and glittering dresses, performers on a stage where the script was successful. And then I saw her. Lena. She stood near the bar, her dress hugging her in all the ways I once admired. Only now the swell at her stomach was impossible to ignore. Her hand rested there unconsciously, protective. Radiant, glowing, as if betrayal itself could make her shine brighter. She spotted me. For a heartbeat, her smile faltered, then snapped back into place, polished and fake. She turned back to her circle, letting them think nothing was wrong. And beside her, Derek. Sharp suit, sharper smile. He spoke with effortless charm, each word a thread pulling people toward him. His hand brushed her elbow lightly as he leaned in, whispering something that made her laugh. Too easily. Too comfortable. My throat tightened. Rage clawed at me, but I forced myself into stillness. If I exploded here, now, it would be their victory. Glad you made it, David's voice cut in, steady, grounding. He clapped a hand to my shoulder, his eyes scanning me. He didn't need to say more. He knew. I nodded, forcing a breath. Let's get this over with. The evening dragged, each conversation laced with undercurrents I couldn't ignore. Colleagues asked polite questions, their eyes flicking between me, Lena, and Derek, curiosity simmering beneath practiced smiles. I caught whispers cut short when I approached. And Derek. Derek knew exactly what he was doing. Lena's been glowing lately, he said loudly during one toast, his hand grazing her back as if he owned the gesture. Motherhood suits her, don't you think? A ripple of awkward laughter followed. Glasses clinked. My jaw clenched so hard I tasted blood. I wanted to speak, to shout, to tell them all the truth, but the words curdled in my throat. My infertility wasn't a public anecdote, not their entertainment. It was mine, my burden. So I swallowed it, every poisoned laugh, every stolen glance. I let it burn inside me. By the time the night wound down, my patience was frayed to threads. People began slipping away, coats draped over arms, cheeks flushed with wine. And then Derek came. He crossed the room slowly, deliberate, eyes locked on mine like a predator savoring the moment. He extended his hand with that same infuriating smile. Good to see you tonight, he said smoothly. I gripped his hand, harder than necessary. Our palms pressed, our gazes locked. He leaned in, his voice low, meant only for me. You really thought she'd wait forever for a child that will never come? The words hit like a blade between my ribs, twisted with precision. My grip tightened, but my voice was gone. All I could do was stare, the world narrowing to his smirk and the echo of his whisper. If hell had a lobby, it would look like our company's mixers. Dim lighting, fake smiles, cheap wine poured into expensive glasses, everyone pretending they weren't already calculating who would stab who in the back tomorrow. I didn't want to be there. But after the last dinner, skipping would have been blood in the water. I walked in with my head high, my pulse low and deadly. It didn't take long to spot them. Lena and Derek. They were by the hors d'oeuvres table, laughing like a couple in a rom-com, her hand brushing his sleeve as if she'd forgotten she was married. To me, the glow on her face wasn't from the wine. It was the pregnancy. His pregnancy. I tightened my jaw until it hurt, nails biting into my palm. Around us, people circled like spectators at an arena, eyes flicking between me and them, waiting for a scene. I wasn't going to give them one. Not tonight. But I wasn't going to play the fool either. I pulled out my phone, thumb hovering. My reflection glared back at the black screen, hollow eyes, clenched jaw. For months, I'd told myself to wait, to endure, to keep our private wars private. But tonight, no more. I opened her profile. Smiling pictures of us still sat there like monuments to a life that no longer existed. My face beside hers, frozen in laughter, blind in love. Delete. Block. Instagram. Gone. Facebook. Gone. WhatsApp. Gone. One by one, doors slammed shut in digital silence. It was petty. It was public. And it was deliberate. The moment I pressed the last button, I felt it, a shift in the room. Conversations slowed, eyes flicked toward me, then toward her. Someone whispered too loudly, and the whisper rippled. Lena's phone buzzed in her hand. She glanced at the screen, then back at me. Her smile broke. The mask she'd worn so perfectly cracked, just for a moment, enough for everyone to see the humiliation bleed through. She froze, then shoved her phone into her bag with a clumsy motion. Everything all right? Derek asked, his voice pitched low, protective. Her eyes burned holes into me from across the room. My chest tightened, but I didn't look away. I wanted her to know I'd chosen this. That I wasn't her silent, loyal fool anymore. Murmurs swelled, a current of gossip rushing through the crowd. I could feel it crawling up my spine. Lena stood abruptly, muttered something to Derek, and stormed out, heels snapping against the floor like gunshots. The door slammed shut behind her. Silence followed. Someone cleared their throat. Another sipped their drink. Conversation started again, forced, brittle. But the damage was done. Everyone had seen. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, pulse racing. Her name lit the screen. One message. You'll regret humiliating me tonight. The glass in my hand felt suddenly fragile, ready to shatter. If Chapter 4 was a cut, Chapter 5 was the salt. I walked into the office Monday morning and felt it immediately. the weight of eyes, the way conversations clipped shut when I passed. Laughter muffled, glances quick, pity disguised as professionalism. It wasn't paranoia. It was a performance. They weren't ignoring me. They were watching. I dropped my bag at my desk, trying to steady my breath, when Derek's voice carried across the floor. Team huddle, everyone. Quick sync before we start the week. The words were casual, but his tone wasn't. He looked at me when he said it, eyes glinting like a dare. We gathered in a glass conference room, the kind designed to show transparency but in reality, trapped you under scrutiny. Derek took the head of the table. Lena slid into the chair beside him. Too close. Too comfortable. First, Derek began, smooth as ever, I want to acknowledge the hard work everyone's been putting in. Deadlines, late nights, it hasn't gone unnoticed. He glanced at Lena, and she gave him a small smile. My jaw ached from clenching. But, he continued, shifting tone, we also need to talk about stress management. Tensions can rise in high-pressure environments. We're all human. Mistakes happen. Emotional outbursts happen. My stomach dropped. He wasn't just talking. He was building a narrative. Eyes slid toward me. Subtle. Calculated. I forced myself to stay silent. Derek folded his hands neatly. Now, I won't name names, but I think it's important we recognize when behavior becomes disruptive. When personal issues spill into the workplace. None of us should feel uncomfortable here. The silence was heavy. Complicit. And then Lena's voice cut through it like a blade. He's right. I turned, stunned. She didn't look at me. She looked at the room, performing for them. I love my husband, but he's been different. Paranoid, lately. He thinks people are out to get him. It's not his fault, he's under pressure. But it affects everyone. The betrayal was surgical. She didn't scream. She didn't accuse me. She painted me as unstable, pitiful, the tragic husband unraveling under his own paranoia. Colleagues nodded slowly, some out of agreement, others just following the current. My throat burned. Paranoid? I said, my voice sharper than intended. That's what you call it when I catch you lying. When I see you with him. Enough, Derek interrupted smoothly, palms raised as if calming a storm. This isn't the place. But it was the place. He'd made it the place. He'd orchestrated this entire scene with her as his weapon. I felt the walls closing in, glass turning into mirrors reflecting only my own isolation. My words were already discredited before they left my mouth. I was the angry husband, the unstable colleague, the man everyone whispered about in group chats. The meeting ended without ending. People dispersed, murmuring, eyes avoiding mine. Lena and Derek stayed behind, heads close together. She laughed softly at something he said, and it cut deeper than any argument. I walked out, heat in my chest, shame crawling up my spine like fire ants. My career, my marriage, my reputation, all of it unraveling in public. By the time I got home, I was hollow. I sat in the dark, staring at the ceiling, phone clutched but forgotten in my hand. Then it buzzed. A new message. No name attached, just a number I didn't recognize. I have proof of what they're planning. Meet me at midnight. The words glowed against the dark room. For the first time in weeks, the fire inside me shifted, from despair to something sharper. Hope. Midnight had a weight to it. The kind of hour where the world was quiet enough to hear your own thoughts, or drown in them. I sat in the dark, jacket already on, car keys in hand, waiting for the clock to tip toward 12. My phone lay on the table, screen black, waiting for a message, a signal from the unknown number that had promised proof. Instead, it rang. Her name lit the screen. Lena. For a moment, I froze. My heart stuttered in my chest, and against every ounce of reason, a flicker of hope sparked. Maybe she regretted it. Maybe she wanted to come clean, to admit Derek had manipulated her. Maybe. I answered. Hello. Her voice came soft, almost trembling. It's me. As if I didn't know. As if her name glowing on my screen hadn't already split me open. I don't want to fight anymore, she said. We've both said things we regret. I want to talk, please. My throat tightened. For weeks, I had begged for those words. For weeks, I had prayed she would turn back, that the woman I married still existed beneath the lies. But I heard it. The hesitation. The calculated softness. She wasn't broken. She was rehearsed. What do you want, Lena? I asked, voice flat. A pause. Then, a sigh heavy with practiced sadness. I want a family. I deserve a family. Don't you see? I've given so much of myself, waited so long. I need more than empty promises and journals full of names that will never belong to us. The words landed like poison. She'd seen me write in that journal. She knew what it meant. And she twisted it anyway. You're saying this is my fault, I whispered, more to myself than her. No, she said quickly, too quickly. I'm saying it's not anyone's fault. It's nature. Biology. You can't give me what I need. I love you, but love isn't enough anymore. Not when I can have. And then it happened. A laugh. Low. Mocking. Male. I froze, blood turning to ice. Derek. His voice bled through the receiver, casual, cruel. Wrap it up, Lena. He's not worth the airtime. Lena gasped, fumbling as if she hadn't realized the line was open. Don't listen to him, she rushed. This is between us. He doesn't. But it was too late. The truth had already bared its teeth. She hadn't called from loneliness. She hadn't called from love. She had called from his bed. From his side. From him. My hand shook, but not from weakness. From clarity. For the first time, the fog lifted. There would be no reconciliation. No forgiveness. No saving what we had. Only ruin. I pulled the phone from my ear, her voice still spilling excuses into the silence. My thumb hovered, then pressed down. The call ended with a final click. In the quiet, I stared at my reflection in the black screen, the hollow-eyed man staring back. And then, to him, to the night, to the ghosts of what once was, I whispered. Then I'll destroy you both. I didn't need an alarm clock that morning. My phone did the job for me, buzzing so violently it nearly slid off the nightstand. I reached for it groggily, half expecting another message from the unknown ally who had promised proof. Instead, what I saw made my stomach cave in. A notification. A tag. I opened it. There she was. Lena. My wife. Glowing in a soft dress, her hand curved proudly around her belly. And beside her, Derek. His arm draped around her shoulders like he'd claimed her long ago. The caption read, New beginnings. Dreams are finally coming true. Hashtags lined beneath it like knives. Hashtag family, hashtag miracle, hashtag love. My throat tightened. My vision blurred. I scrolled down, looking for air. The comments were worse. So happy for you both, finally. You deserve it, Lena. And then, the cruelty. The one that made my chest burn. Guess he couldn't, huh? Someone had tagged me. The laughter behind those words wasn't just digital. I could hear it, echoing from Derek's smirk, Lena's silence, the whispers in every hallway I'd walked through. I threw the phone onto the couch, breathing hard. My journal lay open on the coffee table, baby names scribbled across its pages, names that would never be mine to give. Names Lena had once traced her fingers over, smiling as if she believed. The betrayal pressed down on me, heavy as stone. For a moment, I wanted to burn the journal. Tear the pages. Pretend none of it mattered. But I couldn't. Because that book wasn't just a list. It was a promise. A vow to the father I lost too young, to the child I had dreamed of holding, to the man I still wanted to be, with or without her. They thought they had stripped me of everything. They thought infertility made me powerless. A target. A punchline. They were wrong. My phone buzzed again. Another notification. But this one wasn't public. It was David. David, check your inbox. You need to see this. My chest tightened as I opened the message. A screenshot. Private DMs. Between Derek and Lena. Derek, his reputation is already crumbling. Once this baby's news is public, he'll be finished at the firm. Lena, he won't fight back. He can't. Not with his secret. They'll side with us. Derek, exactly. His weakness is our strength. We'll push him out, clean. The words blurred as my vision narrowed. Not just betrayal. Not just humiliation. Strategy. Calculation. They weren't content with destroying our marriage. They wanted my career, my life's work, my identity. My hands shook, but this time not from weakness. From purpose. I stared at the screenshot, at their smug words, and whispered to the silence of my apartment. If they want war, they'll get it. The morning felt different. Not lighter, not better, but sharper, like a blade freshly honed. I woke up with one thought in my chest, enough. The past weeks had been a cycle of begging, waiting, breaking. But now I had something new. Proof. The screenshots David sent weren't just gossip or suspicion. They were a map, and a warning. If I didn't act, they'd finish me. So I started cutting. I deleted Lena's number first. Watching her name disappear from my phone felt like cutting off a limb. Necessary, but brutal. Then the photos, all those saved memories. Our wedding day, her smile at the coast, late-night selfies when we still believed in forever. One by one, I erased them. Chats, gone. Contacts, blocked. Every reminder of her, stripped away until my phone was nothing but silence. Next came the apartment. The walls smelled like her perfume, the air still carrying echoes of arguments, whispers, lies. I stuffed my clothes into duffel bags, leaving behind the bed we once shared. I rented a small flat on the edge of town, a place no one would think to look. Not comfort, just distance. Each step hurts. Each cut bled. But the bleeding felt clean. For the first time, I wasn't waiting for Lena's apology or Derek's slip. I was moving on my terms. By evening, exhaustion carried me to the grocery store. I filled a basket mechanically: bread, bottled water, instant meals. Simple things. Surviving things. But as I stepped into the dim parking garage, I felt it. The prickling sensation of eyes on me. And then he was there. Derek. Leaning casually against a pillar, suit jacket draped over his shoulder, as if this was his kingdom and I was trespassing. My grip tightened on the bag. "Going somewhere?" he asked, voice smooth. I didn't answer. I walked toward my car. He pushed off the pillar, falling into step beside me. "You're making a mistake. Running doesn't erase reality. Everyone already knows the truth. Lena's pregnant. She chose me. You're yesterday's news." I shoved the bag into the back seat, trying to ignore him. But then his voice dropped lower. Darker. "Stay quiet, or I'll bury you." The words cut through me, cold and final. He wasn't bluffing. He had Lena's pregnancy, the company's whispers, his influence. If I opened my mouth, they'd make sure I drowned. He stepped closer, invading my space. Then, with a smile too sharp to be human, he slipped something into my hand. An envelope. "No need to thank me," he said. "Consider it, perspective." He walked away without looking back, his footsteps echoing like a gavel. I stood there under the flickering parking light, pulse pounding, envelope trembling in my grip. I already knew what it was before I opened it. Still, when I saw the photos, my stomach dropped. Lena. Derek. In bed. Smiling. Touching. Proof of everything I had feared, captured in cruel clarity. The world tilted. And in that spinning moment, I knew, they wanted me broken. But broken men don't stay down. The air smelled different in my new place. Not like home, nothing like home, but clean. Empty. A blank slate. The apartment was small, one window facing a cracked parking lot, the walls pale and bare. But it was mine. No perfume lingering in the corners, no shadow of Derek's cologne on the sheets. Just silence. For the first time in weeks, silence felt like a gift. I started slow. Morning runs around the block. The first left me gasping, knees burning, but by the third, my lungs began to remember they could expand. Cooking simple meals: eggs, rice, chicken. No takeout bags stuffed in the bin, no dinners eaten cold at a desk while staring at old photos. I forced myself to pick up the pen again. The journal. The one filled with baby names. I almost burned it after Derek's envelope. Almost tore it apart with my bare hands. But now, sitting at the small table by the window, I saw it differently. Those names weren't just about a child. They were about hope. Continuation. Legacy. And legacy could take many forms. A career. A book. A life lived on my terms. For the first time, I saw that I wasn't just the man who couldn't. I was still here. Still breathing. Still capable of building. And as I built, their world began to crack. I didn't have to search. The posts found me. Lena's Instagram, once daily smiles and polished captions, slowed to a trickle. Derek, once smug in every tagged photo, began posting less too. And then the slips: a photo hastily deleted, a caption too sharp. Some people don't appreciate what they have. The comments buzzed with speculation. Are they okay? Drama? Already fighting? I shouldn't have cared. But I did. Because watching their facade crumble from a distance felt like oxygen. Proof that my silence wasn't a weakness. It was patience. And in that patience, I found strength. One evening, I sat by the window, journal open, pen moving without hesitation. I wasn't writing baby names anymore. I was writing plans. Ideas. Things I wanted to build for myself. For the first time in months, I felt more than a wound. More than an absence. And then my phone buzzed. A notification. A direct message. From her. Please. I made a mistake. Can we meet? The pen stilled in my hand. My pulse thudded. The silence of the room suddenly felt heavier than before. The cafe was loud enough to hide in, but not enough to disappear. Cups clinked, steam hissed, conversations wove together into a background hum. I sat near the back, facing the door. Always facing the door now. I told myself I was only here for closure. That I wasn't expecting her to walk in with the same face I had once loved. And then Lena entered. The first thing I noticed wasn't her belly, though it was impossible to miss now. It was her eyes. They looked hollow, ringed with shadows. Whatever glow Derek had paraded online was gone. She scanned the cafe until she found me, then walked over with shoulders slumped, like someone dragging chains. She sat across from me, hands twisting in her lap. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. You look different, she finally said. I replied. Her mouth trembled, as if she wanted to smile but couldn't remember how. I didn't know where else to turn. He's not. Derek isn't who I thought he was. I raised an eyebrow but said nothing. She leaned forward. I know I hurt you. I know I destroyed everything. But I thought he would give me what I wanted. Stability. A family. Instead, he treats me like a trophy. Like property. I don't even recognize my life anymore. Her voice cracked, and for a second, the girl I once knew flickered behind her desperation. You want me to feel sorry for you, I said evenly. Her lips parted, but no words came. I shook my head. You made your choice. You didn't just betray me, you mocked me. You let him weaponize the one wound you knew would cut deepest. And now, when his mask slips, you come crawling back. Tears filled her eyes. I don't want to crawl. I want to make things right. Please, just listen. I sat back, folding my arms. Calm. Collected. She could see it, that I wasn't the same man who had begged her weeks ago. And then the air shifted. The door slammed open, and Derek stormed in. Heads turned. The hum of the cafe dipped for a moment as he spotted us. His eyes narrowed, and a twisted smile spread across his face. He strode toward our table like he owned the ground beneath him. Really, Lena, he sneered as he reached us. This is where you've been hiding. Whispering apologies in dingy coffee shops. Lena flinched. Derek, please. But he was already pulling out a chair, dropping into it with a thud. His presence filled the space, loud and suffocating. Let me guess, he said, staring at me. She's telling you I'm the villain. That she made a mistake. That poor, perfect Lena deserves another chance. I held his gaze, unflinching. His smirk faltered slightly, irritation sparking in his eyes. He leaned closer, voice dropping to a venomous whisper. Do you think this changes anything? She's carrying my child. You're a footnote, nothing more. I didn't bite. I let silence speak for me. That silence drove him mad. His hand slammed down on the table, rattling cups and drawing gasps from nearby customers. Enough games, he roared. Tell him the truth, or I will. The cafe froze. Every eye turned to us. And Lena's face was drained of color. The air in the cafe felt brittle, like one wrong word would shatter it. Derek's hand still pressed against the table, eyes burning into Lena. Tell him, he demanded. Tell him the truth, or I'll do it for you. Lena's lips parted, but no sound came. Her eyes darted between us, caught between fire and stone. My pulse thundered, but I stayed still, waiting. Finally, she whispered, I never meant for it to go this far. Lies, Derek snapped. She shook her head frantically, tears pooling. It's true. He cornered me, he promised me things I thought I needed, safety, a future, a family. And I let him. The words stabbed, but they weren't the killing blow. Not yet. Her gaze flickered to me, soft, pleading. But I wasn't just manipulated. I wanted it. I wanted a child so badly I would have taken it from anyone who offered. I couldn't wait for something that might never come. I couldn't keep pretending forever. Each sentence carved me open. Not because she admitted weakness. But because she admitted choice. So it wasn't just Derek's schemes. It wasn't just pressure. It was her. She had looked at me, her husband, the man who trusted her with his most fragile secret, and decided I wasn't enough. That I would never be enough. The knife twisted deeper. Was any of it real? I asked quietly. Did you ever love me, or was I always just a broken placeholder? Her tears spilled, her silence damning. Derek leaned back, grinning like a wolf who'd cornered both prey and rival at once. There you have it. Straight from the source. She wanted me. She still does. I wanted to hit him. To crush that smirk until it cracked. But instead, I stayed seated, my body ice while my chest burned. Then Derek pulled out his phone. You think this little confession matters, he said, tapping the screen. I own the narrative. A moment later, the cafe erupted in murmurs. Phones buzzed across the room. People glanced at their screens, then at us, whispers spreading like fire. My own phone vibrated. I pulled it out and saw the post. Photos. Lena and Derek in bed. Caption, this is who she really belongs to. The room tilted, my pulse roaring in my ears. Around me, strangers stared, some gasping, some smirking. My private hell had just gone public. The morning after Derek's stunt, I woke with a decision burning through me like fire. No more waiting. No more bargaining with ghosts. The first call I made was to my lawyer. File it, I said. My voice didn't tremble this time. Divorce. Today. By noon, I'd signed the papers. By nightfall, I had scrubbed her from my life like a stain. Bank accounts split, photos deleted. Every chat archived, every thread severed. Even her number, gone. For years, Lena had been entwined with my identity, the backdrop of every memory. Cutting her out felt surgical, but it also felt necessary. Like excising poison. I boxed up the journal, the one with the baby names I'd written when hope had still felt alive. I didn't burn it. Not yet. But I locked it away, a relic of a dream that was mine alone, no longer tethered to her betrayal. And then, I left. The city where it all happened, every street corner, every restaurant, every late-night drive, was suffocating. So I rented a small apartment in another city, one with wider skies and streets where no one knew my face. The first night in that empty room, I sat on the floor with takeout noodles and silence. It didn't feel lonely. It felt clean. I built new routines. Running at dawn, when the streets were still asleep. Cooking for myself, simple meals but mine. I buried myself in new work projects that belonged to me alone, no shared dreams, no shadows of her. David checked in every few days. You sound different, he said over the phone. I am, I told him. And for once, it wasn't a lie. He chuckled. This is who you were meant to be. It took a war to find it, but you're standing taller now. I thought of my father then, the promise I had made to myself after he died. To create a family one day. To carry his name forward. That dream wasn't dead. It just wasn't bound to her anymore. Weeks passed, and I barely thought of Lena. Not until David sent me links to whispers online. Their posts had stopped. Derek had been seen yelling in bars, his smile gone jagged. Lena looked pale, retreating from the spotlight she once basked in. Their empire of lies was crumbling. And for the first time in months, I felt peace. Real peace. Until my phone buzzed at midnight. A single message. Her name lit up my screen. I have one last way to win you back. If you don't come, you'll regret it. My blood ran cold. The park was almost empty at that hour, save for a few lamps casting tired yellow light across the benches. The air smelled of wet earth, the residue of an earlier storm. I sat alone, hands folded, the message replaying in my mind like static. Her silhouette appeared from the shadows. Lena. She wore a coat too thin for the night, hair tangled, eyes swollen. She looked smaller than I remembered. She stopped a few feet away, as if gauging whether I would bolt. Then she stepped forward, voice trembling. Thank you for coming. I didn't answer. She bit her lip, tears brimming already. I don't know how to start. Everything's a mess. Derek, he's not the man I thought he was. He used me. Her voice cracked, breaking into sobs. I waited, silent. Finally, she forced the words out. I made a mistake. The worst mistake of my life. But I still love you. I never stopped loving you. I was just desperate. I thought if I gave us a child, it would fix everything. Don't you see? I only wanted to make us whole. Her hands reached across the space, fingers brushing the sleeve of my jacket. The contact might have once shattered me. Now, it meant nothing. I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman who had sat silent while coworkers mocked my secret. The woman who had chosen Derek's promises over my truth. The woman who had let our private pain become a public spectacle. And suddenly, she was transparent. Every word, every tear, every gesture, it was all needed. Not love. You think this is about love? I said quietly. Her breath hitched. It is. It always was. No, I shook my head. You were never fighting for me. You were fighting for what I could give you. A name. Security. A dream you couldn't build on your own. That's all I ever was to you, a vessel for your needs. Her tears spilled freely now, running down her cheeks, her body trembling. That's not true. I cut her off, my voice sharper now, echoing in the empty park. And that's why you'll never win. The words hung between us like the crack of thunder after lightning. Her face crumpled, and for the first time, she had no answer. The silence after chaos was the strangest part. For weeks, my phone would light up at odd hours, Lena's name flashing with new messages. Some begging. Some are threatening. Some promising things she no longer had to offer. I stopped opening them. They became background noise, like the hum of a fridge or traffic outside the window. Always there. Never important. Once, those words would have gutted me. Now, they didn't even scratch the surface. My life had become quiet, but it wasn't empty. Morning started with runs through unfamiliar streets, my breath steady, my body lighter. Work had grown, expanding in ways I hadn't imagined when I was drowning in betrayal. I built things, projects, ideas, that would last long after me. And in those long hours, I thought of my father. The promise I had made to myself after losing him, to carry a legacy forward. I used to believe that meant children. A family with my name. But the legacy wasn't that narrow. Legacy was what you left behind in the lives you touched, in the work you created, in the choices you made when it would have been easier to crumble. One afternoon, David introduced me to someone. Anna. She wasn't a mirror of what I had lost. She wasn't a replacement or a bandage. She was simply herself. Kind eyes. A sharp wit that caught me off guard. The kind of presence that didn't demand or pull, it just existed beside me, steady and warm. We talked about everything but the past. And for the first time, I realized I didn't need to tell the whole story to be seen. The scars were still there, but they weren't open wounds anymore. Lena still called. Still messaged. Still tried to wedge herself into the spaces I'd left behind. But she was already fading, a ghost in a house I'd long since walked out of. She could rage, plead, or threaten, it didn't matter. Her voice no longer had roots in me. What mattered was now. The quiet streets at dawn. The projects that carried my name. The laughter that came easier with each passing day. The possibility of a future not bound to loss, but built on choice. I stood at the edge of it, not afraid anymore. For the first time, the future wasn't empty. It was mine.